Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. Joining me asking the question, why can't we be friends? Is my podcast sister, Karen.
Hello.
And my podcast brother, Lou.
I thought we were friends.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we
Why
are.
can't we be friends?
Yes.
Why can't we be friends? Sorry, go ahead.
No, tonight we are talking Dust to Dust, episode 6 of season 3, originally aired back in February 5th, 1996. Before we get that, I'm going to take just a few minutes. As we're recording this, the official trailer for Babylon 5, The Return Home, has dropped. Lou watched it. I don't know if Karen did.
I did.
I don't think there's a ton. There is certainly some spoilers, like, oh, I guess they won the Shadow War, and Sheridan gets a new role. Okay,
Sheridan gets it on with Delenn, apparently.
Yeah, so a little bit. I just wanted to share. I thought it looked great. I thought
That's
the animation
main reason
looked.
that's the main reason I wanted to see how close it resembled the show, which was pretty good, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, Karen, how about you? Any quick thoughts?
No, I liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing it in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. I really thought that the animation looked good. The scenes of action we saw looked well. There was a little bit of they had to recast some voices because we've lost some, but it did not sound overly, oh, wait, that's not right. So yeah, I thought I can understand why Stravinsky has been high on this and he told the story that he and Bruce were watching it to do an audio commentary, and Bruce kept not saying anything because he was just stuck into the film, which is I think a very good compliment. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, a suggestion for you, Jesse. Since you and your Doctor Who podcast buddy are big time travel fans, and what's the character's name? Zather?
Yeah, Zathras. Yeah.
Then maybe you two should watch that together, and we'll do a bonus episode for that.
Oh, I think that would be great.
You could do it as a crossover too.
I'm signing up for Charles right now. I know he's into it. I will make it happen, and we'll do a one-off review of it. I think that would be great.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to Dust to Dust. Sir returns to Babylon 5, and there is a minor storyline with Veer, but mostly this is Bester and what's going on with Dust. I know Karen has questions, so I'm going to go to Lou first, get quick thoughts, and then we'll go to Karen with her quick thoughts, and then she has questions for the class.
I do.
Yeah, on the macro level, I really like what they given to the Jakar to play with. I don't know if this ability is going to stay with them going forward, but it seems it will be. And on the minor character beats, I did not like that scene with Susan in the CNC.
We will have to talk about that. I think that is a fair. Yeah, let's put a pin on that. Really nice. How about you, Karen?
Yeah, another good episode. I see where they're headed with a lot of things, which is good. And then I don't see where they're headed with a lot of things, which is good too. I thought the episode overall was good storytelling. Like Lou, I love the stuff that Jakar is doing. Even the interactions between him and Malari Londo were acted well. And there were some very gut-wrenching scenes in this episode. My questions.
Yes.
One of my main questions is, I get that the dust was engineered by the Psi cops, right? The Psi Corps. We learned that at the end of the episode. So they bring in, at the beginning of the episode, they bring in a woman who had an episode right down the hall from the ranting guy, right? And they say that she broke her leg and the mountain fell on her on Mars. So are they saying that she got Mars dust from being on Mars? Or that she has dust through other means? Because it was weird to me that someone would be on the ship that got Mars dust inadvertently, and then there's this whole trade of Mars dust going on at the same time, and that it was engineered, but apparently it's not. So I had a big brain fart when it came to that scene.
So I did not catch that they mentioned Mars. I'll have to go back and look at it. What I think is happening, and our wonderful listeners will be quick to tell us that we're wrong, and I love that. And I mean that sincerely. The idea that the dust is specifically was made as a drug that would help enhance someone's to change their score, to be able to get them a higher telepath. And then they talk about none of it worked. So it was just a side effect that it would give people this temporarily, and people would use it because it's very addictive. So
I get that.
Yeah, okay.
But the thing is that they brought her in. They mentioned she was on Mars climbing a mountain. She broke her leg in 3 places. And then immediately Franklin's brain goes, oh, she's on dust. What? I mean, the mountain fell on her on Mars.
No, she's not on anything. He's on dust. So he just experienced her memories of that thing in Mars.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so they shouldn't have mentioned the word Mars in that sentence then. They should have said she was climbing Denali or something, broke her leg in 3 places in the sky. Okay, I get it now.
Okay.
I thought for sure that they were implying that she got some kind of Mars dust effect from being on Mars.
Yeah, and I don't know, why do you keep saying Mars dust? Do they call it Mars dust? I just thought it's called dust.
Yeah, it is. But I think it's just natural that if somebody breaks her, like Mars is a desert planet, so there's a lot of dust there, right?
Okay.
So I'm reading
and the
so
title
many
too,
things
right?
into
Dust to
this.
dust. So maybe somehow the dust was transmitted.
Yeah, no, I'm reading more into this then. Okay, got it.
Okay, got it. All right. We get a call that Bester is coming there. There's a big problem at Babylon 5. He's going to need their help. And immediately there's panic, and maybe controlled panic, maybe uncontrolled panic, maybe a little bit overreaction. But the idea, oh my God, we have so many secrets. And having Bester come here is going to be a problem. Now, my first nitpick is there's telepaths all over Babylon 5. So and we talked last episode, they're not exactly being the most covert about their meetings, but now they're worried, right? Let's talk about plan A and plan B and not blowing them up. But the idea, we're going to either have Minbari telepaths hang around, or we can neuter you temporarily so that you won't have your telepathic abilities. Karen, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, where did all the Minbari telepaths come from? Did they rush them in quickly from somewhere else while Bester was coming in that 7 hours?
Good question. I'm thinking because they had 7 hours, they were able to call in. Is there anyone nearby? Do we have any telepaths visiting? I don't know. Is there a vibing Minbari telegraph? Is there a Minbari? Do they have a little kiosk
network? Or there you go. Where you can order them.
They would have to be on station because there's no way they could get there quicker than Bester was already.
Right, I would assume.
Yeah.
And you said Bester came on and he needs their help, but he doesn't need their help. That he came on because he wanted to help them, quote unquote. The only reason he needs their help is because they took that ability away from him. He irritates me so much. I love Walter Koenig. I really do. But Bester is just so effing smug. And he loves to twist a conversation to his benefit. In a lighthearted way, the pinata remark.
It was so funny, though,
It
right? Like
was
how
funny.
he twists that.
Right. It was funny, but if I were Garibaldi, I would want to wring his neck. I really would. And I'd be like, no, I want to hit a pinata. I want to hit you. That's the takeaway you should have from this. So I feel like we're getting these super sinister, like overtly sinister vibes from him. And I wish he was more gray of a character. But I get it. They don't have time to make everyone gray. So he's what he is. But yeah, I like that storyline. I love he and Garibaldi interrogating that guy, and why Garibaldi didn't cotton on to the fact that Bester was bluffing. I don't know. But yeah, I think that storyline was good.
So I think they've tried. Esther has said, would you like to know that I like to go to the park with my child and that I'm married and that I do some of the things you guys do? I think that for now, and I do know there is a storyline coming up that makes him a little more human. But I think for now, we are looking at from their vision of this is someone that's a threat. And I think that's why there isn't as much gray. So I love the way he plays it. It does give him a lot of shade. And I know specifically Stravinsky he loved bringing him in and show how much more depth he had as an actor compared to what he was able to do in the original Star Trek.
Yeah, no, I love him as Bester. I really do. I feel like the impact would have been greater if they had played it a little more subtle, especially with that note at the end where it's revealed that they started all this dust thing. And he makes that offhanded remark that they dissected Talia.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot when it comes to Bester.
Yeah, and you wonder how much of that is a deliberate slip of the tongue, or was he just, did they actually dissect her? We don't know. Put and prodded. I think he did need them. I don't think that one Babylon 5 would have, and once again, this is where I think I'm going to sound like Lou.
Oh, that's
and
not
I
good.
mean a good way.
It is good.
It is murky, the chain of command. So if I was, let's put this in Earth terms, if I was a high-ranking member of the law enforcement Texas Rangers, not the baseball team, and wanted to go to Fort Hood, Texas to investigate a crime, I would have to talk to the chain of command and get permission, and I would work with the military police. So is the Psi Corps part of Earth government, or is it a separate organization? If that case, he can't just bring in a team of other Psi cops. He has to go and get permission from Babylon 5 to use their security force. That's how I looked at it in my mind. Okay. Lou, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think it also goes back to Karen's point about Bester being smug, is that he needs them to do his dirty work. Like he's not gonna get down in the trenches to do that kind of canvassing witnesses and so forth. He's quite content to have the ditch work done by the Joes, and because he's in a high enough position where he feels that kind of work is beneath him. And normally I would assume that if he needs to get that kind of information, he would just get it through his telepathic abilities. I find Bester overall, and I echo the sentiments or the thoughts that Walter Koenig is having a blast playing this character. There's a lovely duplicity with his character that's going on. But I also think that he has a code of honor that's very based on serving the Psi Corps. So anything related to the Psychor, that entity is going to get his full attention. Outside of that, I think it's still gray to me as to what he would do in certain situations, but that don't affect the Psychor directly. Like, what kind of moral compass does he have in those types of situations? I think that's still open to interpretation, and I'm hoping to see that explored in future episodes. I do think that he likes to poke fun at other non-telepathic characters, as we witnessed with the interrogation scene, and his jibing with Garibaldi, especially about the pinata comment about him being full of toys and surprises for kids. That makes him feel happy. So yeah, I really like the character. He's able to get all the main cast characters out of their comfort zone, which is always good to see. And I'm just curious now going forward, every time he visits the station going ahead, are they going to make him take this anti-telepathic drug every time? Because that's going to limit his character in that aspect, which is not always a bad thing, because if you take away or nullify the greatest strength of a character that you like, it's a good test of their will to see how they're going to overcome that handicap to still get the thing done, the task they need to do. So how Bester is going to approach that, or the show is going to approach that going forward, I'll be very curious to see. So yeah, I just thought, it was, the Bester storyline was pretty cool. And of course, at the end, was any of us surprised to find out that the drug was actually created by the Psychor? I don't think so.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all.
By the way, the other telepath, the Psychor that came and met him at the end, that was his real life wife at the time.
Okay.
Gave
she
her
was
a
in
little
another
cameo.
scene too, wasn't she, in another episode?
I think she might have been.
Yeah, when he was doing something in that room. She
Yeah.
was like the technician helping him do it or whatever. I think that was his wife as well.
By the way, sign me up for Garibaldi Bester procedural where they're solving crimes. Yeah, The Odd Couple.
Yeah,
I think that would have been fun to see.
for sure.
Yeah. I liked her a lot. I liked their combination together. I do think it was an interesting mystery and them working together and the whole discussion back and forth. And I honestly believed Mr. when he said, "You may not believe this, but I enjoyed working with you, Mr. Garibaldi." And I thought that was pretty cool. And JMS said this, and in a couple of our emails that we got, he specifically said that to keep a villain dangerous, you've got to let them win. You have to give, and so this was specifically to give Bester that he's worried. And I think they have set up now a box of, okay, when Bester comes, we have a plan to take care of him. But now that he knows what that plan is, he is going to have a move. We are playing chess. He will have now then maybe the 3 or 4 Psychops at the time. And are you going to have enough drugs, or what we're going to do? So yeah, I think that'll be interesting when he returns.
Are you foreshadowing something there?
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
I know he returns, but I don't remember how they got out of that box specifically.
Okay. Okay.
So no, I do not remember that. Let's talk Veer. Once again, I have now gotten to, not only do I go to Lurker's Guide, but I go to Babylon 5, the scripts of Babylon 5, as I hold the book up that no one can see but us. And he said in his mind, what would Veer come back more formal, or would he be different? And JMS said he would come whatever is the Mabari version of Hawaii print shirt.
Yep.
Like he would have, like, he says that's what he would do.
Yep.
And so that's what he did that. And I thought, Londo, you should wear it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how much, and this is probably one of the dumbest questions I'm going to ask, but I wonder how much of Peter Jurassic being able to see Stephen First back played into that role, because not only is Londo happy to see Veer, I'm sure Peter was thrilled to get Steven back because they did so many roles together, because there was such a sense of joy in this. I also want y'all's thoughts. We'll go on that storyline, but also the thoughts of Londo is doing the same thing to the Ministry of Peace, and the political offer was, okay, we need to change how you write this. And you can leave that in. They're devoted. That always makes spiritual always make people nervous. Go ahead, Luke. Tell me.
Yeah, it was surprising to see him back so soon. Like I felt like we just said goodbye to his character. So he's changed a lot in this short time period. Like you said, the Hawaiian shirt thing was a nice visual. That yeah, he's enjoying his time. Actually, I think he's surprised how much he's enjoying his time with the Minbari, and he's much more, even more sympathetic to other points of view now than he was before. So it's just, there's not much for me to say about the scenes. I just thought, yeah, he's just playing it chill. And with Londo, it's every episode, it's so hard to like this guy because now he had this little beef with the other race and they're going to.
The Drazis.
Right? He's going to intrude on their space again. So it's I like the Veer stuff with him, and I just without him in the show, I don't know how they're going to even have any similar types of scenes for Londo as a sympathetic character. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to handle that.
Karen?
Yeah, I agree. I was wondering also, he does say to Veer that he's not collaborating anymore, and he makes it known that he's backed out of this arrangement with whomever it is. I guess that's in Jakar's vision, right?
Yes.
But he doesn't seem to be acting like that. Like he is not working with anyone anymore, but he sits down with the Drazi and tries to get more of their settlements. If he's backed out of all this, why is he still pushing this hard line and then doing all the redactions of Veer's little press release? Again, I feel like that's falling into that category of him being this bad guy, right? Instead of the good guy that we've seen. And he's not showing any kind of remorse. He's not at all repentant for what he's done. And I would have liked to see a little bit more of that by now, at least a little bit, because we know that he knows it's wrong what he did. So why is he doubling down on it in this episode?
I think I've said this before. The great Andrew Greeley, who was a prolific Catholic priest who wrote tons of romantic novels and mystery novels, and he had a line, often in error, never in doubt. And I think that's Londo, right? Like, he may be wrong, but he's got it full-fledged. And this is such a jerk move where, but you originally only asked for one. Yeah, but you didn't accept our offer right away. Mm-hmm. Now that okay, let's split this 70, 60, 40. How about 50, 50? Okay, 70, 30, right? That it's such a jerk move.
Yeah.
And he continues to just move forward. And yeah, he may no longer think he needs the shadows, but it's not like he's given up he still wants to be. I
feel like that him pulling out of that deal was him understanding that what he did was wrong. That's the reason he pulled out of that deal with Morden.
Yeah.
But yet he's still doing all the same crap.
So I think he was not, my personal opinion is, it's not that he was wrong with Morden. He just thought, I'm going to get sucked down to owe them even more. Okay. So now that I've used him, let's get rid of him. I don't regret what I've done. I'm just like, okay, I've gotten my hands dirty, but I don't want to get him any more dirty. Okay. So I'm going to go. That's my feeling on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Could be wrong. We could see.
No,
Yeah.
I get
So
it. I think that makes
yeah,
a lot of sense.
yeah. So
Makes me
let's go.
hate him more.
Exactly.
But-
Carr, they tied this really well, is that Esther says, I'm worried that people like, hey, Mr. Garibaldi, can you think of people that might want to find an easy way to get something in that could possibly be a weapon? And then we get, sure enough, Jakar's trying to smuggle this in and to test it. And they set up perfectly like, you guys don't have telepaths. Oh, we used to, but we don't anymore. So I'm not sure how this drug is going to affect you, your people. Good luck to whoever you get to test it, which you knew. I remember the first time, obviously, Jakar's going to test it
Of
himself.
course, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not a big leap of faith.
Nope.
And it leads to, I think, an amazing performance of Jakar being stoned out of his mind, beats up Veer, beats up Londo, and is pulling data. He finds out that it was a joke. Londo, no one else wanted the Babylon 5 ambassadorship because it had been so dangerous and least prestige. He was a joke. Then he sees all that Londo was involved in destroying the world. And there is just this massive hate till there wasn't. So let's get up to that, and then let's talk about a separate discussion of Jakar's road to Damascus moment, is how I would put it. And Lou, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I was very excited to see this storyline developing in the episode. So when Jakar got the dust, not the Mars dust, the dust.
Yeah.
We all knew he was going to take it. And I was pretty sure it was going to be successful because of the comment that he made earlier about the fact that there used to be Narn telepaths, but they were all wiped out. So that was just really, heightened my anticipation of when he took it. And I do the fact that he went to Lando and used his new ability on him. And I don't know, the revelation that Lando was there on Babylon 5 as a joke post was good to find out. It explains maybe a little bit of why Lando was trying to overcompensate for some of the decisions that he was making with Morden later on in that. So that's a nice little bit of character development that I really appreciated. And then the rage that Jakar was feeling, and I thought, boy, where is it going to go from here? And then I guess we want to discuss what happens with what I call the spirit walk later in a separate conversation. So I'll stop it there.
Karen?
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting as well, that the Narn used to have telepaths. He does say they were exterminated. So it makes me wonder who exterminated them. Was it the Centauri when they came the first time, or was it someone else? So I want to get that story. That sounds intriguing to me. If the Centauri did that the first time around, then there's even more at stake for them, because that would be like exterminating an entire race from our planet.
So I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to try to do what you guys did very well. Why were the telepaths eliminated and who did it is definitely hang a signpost on this. That might have repercussions down the road.
All right, great.
As you guys used to tell me, you're asking the right question.
Okay, good. So at least I know that we'll get more of that story. That's wonderful. And the fact that it played into the storyline, I feel like there was a confluence of all these good things that came together in order to weave the storyline together. The whole telepath thing, the Psychor being involved, the sister coming on to do this, the fact that the Psychor had this manufacturer, that Jakar is looking for weapons, all of this stuff came together so that this episode could happen right now. And especially since Jakar and Andreas Katsoulis, his acting has really gotten me excited lately. And to have him have such a large and interesting role in this episode, I thought was great. And to have him playing off Londo, even though Londo was incapacitated for part of it, there's still that interplay between the two actors, which I love.
You seem to be upset, Jakar. Let us talk for a moment, right?
Yeah, because you're beaten and laying on the ground.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. One of the things that I have enjoyed about this rewatch so much is knowing where Jakar is going to go and watching you two, not the band, but Karen and Lou.
Damn it.
Without you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watching along and
no
seeing this journey. And it is not, I think, spoiler at all, because very clear, he has reached bottom.
Yeah.
And I think that scene, and so let's talk about this. In the Bible, they talk about Saul was persecuting Christians and was all about, he was the Centauri. He was destroying the Christian ways the same way the Centauri were trying to destroy the Narn. And on the road to Damascus, the Bible tells there was a vision and that it struck him and he changed his name to Paul, and in many ways is the most influential person of modern Christianity, even more than Jesus, because the letters, Paul wrote all the Acts and all the letters of the New Testament. So he is very influential in a lot of modern doctrine of the Christian faith. So Jakar has that moment. He sees his father, he sees their Jaquan, their main religious figure, and then again he sees their version of the angel. So I'm going to give you, I think, Karen, it's your turn to go first. Let's talk about that. And then the trial where he's just, yes, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
And almost is ready to accept his punishment because in my mind, he has accepted, I have to change. And this is the point of my new journey.
Yeah, I felt like he was looking at that jail sentence, which isn't terribly long, 2 months, as a reset. At least that's the thought I get from it. He has that time to reflect, to center himself, and then reset it. Come to terms with the fact that he's going to be about peace. And again, that's just me assuming I feel like that he has found this peace that
I'm really surprised JMS didn't make the sentence 40 days.
Right?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Like he's on his own virtual arc.
Yeah.
But okay, that whole sequence in the dream state thing where he's in Londo's mind. I'm going to say something that you guys hear me say every week. What the F, Kosh? What is his motivation for going? I'm assuming that everything that happened that wasn't Londo was Kosh.
Yep.
Kosh gave him the vision of his father, gave him the vision of Jaquan, and then the vision of the angel. And I'm assuming that's to give him that come to Jesus moment, literally. And for him to back down. Like he doesn't want the Narn to fight back, right? That's what I'm reading into all this, is that he wants Jakar, because he's influential, to back down from his stance of the hatred towards the Centauri. And he wants him to stop all of that riling up of the Narn. What side is he on? Is my question. I feel like part of that is that he could have saved Jakar from going down a road he shouldn't have gone down? Or is it that he is bending him to his will? So I feel like we're going to see more about that coming down the pike. We've gotten some comments from people that say, oh, you might be on the right track with this Kosh thing. Just wait and see where he's coming from. I feel like who is wrong to be in bed with Kosh? And who is right to be in bed with Kosh? And that I got all of this out of him making one scene appearance in this entire episode where he shows that he has actually influenced this vision. Gosh, I swear to God, Kosh, what am I going to do with you? I don't get it. And again, that's in a good way. I don't get it.
So you remember when I said, gosh, it's almost like there were two Crichtons and you guys did spit takes?
Yeah.
I'm doing a spit take. So
I see. How would you know that it's really Kosh in that Kosh suit? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that
works in mysterious ways.
Yes, he does. His wonders to perform. Lou, how about you?
Yeah, it was when it switched from Lando's mind to Jakar on his homeworld with his dying father. I was going like, wow, this is an effect. This is a side effect of the drug that's so expanded his consciousness that he's actually going to be like spirit walking, which is really cool. And as the scene played out, I thought, man, this is really cool. Like he's going to be turned away from this self-destructive path onto something much more interesting. And then when his father turned into that angel, I said, that looks like Kosh, like when he was in that other episode, that the visual of him coming out in that episode where Sheridan was falling to his death really hit home in this particular scene. So that was a really nice setup. And I like that quite a bit. But like Karen, I'm ambivalent about his changing Jakar's life on such a fundamental level. I do think it's obviously from a character point of view, it's a much more interesting path for him to go down. But I don't like the fact that he's been manipulated into it. And if he finds out down the road that he was, it will be interesting to see the effect on it. I would have to hazard a guess that by then he'll have stepped so much back from his original path that he'll be able to say, or he'll be able to take that in stride and say, yeah, I didn't like that you did that to me, but in the long run, it was for the better. So I can accept that you did that. And I think that's possibly how that's going to play out. But I'm really curious now to see where Jakar is going to go. We're getting this whole, is he going to become the next big religious figure of the Narn history and start a whole new movement? That would be interesting. So he's in a very interesting place. And like I said, I just wish JMS would have done like a 40-day jail sentence, like the 40 days in the desert kind of thing. That would have been really cool.
40 is a very significant 40 days and nights. Yep. Jesus was there. The rain. 40 significant.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Yeah. I guess maybe that's just too short of a time period to give him, but especially since the show is not real time, but every season is a calendar year.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now we're just going to have to see if he has any more visions while he's in the jail cell.
Yeah.
And I also that beat where he's about to get taken in and Garibaldi tries to give him back the Book of Jaquan and he says, no, I'm closer, I guess, closer to his God than
I don't need it anymore.
In I'm closer to the source that now then he feels like. And Lou, the question, right? Does the ends justify the means?
Yeah.
And what is Kosh's and the Vorlon's ultimate, what is their end game?
So which like Karen says about Kosh, which begs the question, did he do that out of compassion for Jakar, or is this part of a bigger design that he's putting in motion that he wants to use for some purpose of his own? Or is it just like he just wants to break this cycle of violence that the Narn don't seem to be able to break out of on their own? It's an interesting play on the kind of prime directive from Star Trek, like non-interference. Yeah, it's interesting.
Kosh is not about the prime directive at all.
No.
Except it seemed like he was in the first season.
Yeah. What I absolutely adore is I said, Karen just had hey, there's 2 Crichton moments, and you just had hey, there's 2 Crichton moments in your discussions, which brings me great joy. Yeah. I do think watching G'Kar go through all that anger, and then just seeing that calm acceptance. I am guilty. No. And it's fine. And him I do get a kick out of, wouldn't they have let him get in something a little more comfortable in the jail cell? He's staying in that full gloves and all his finery. Not that he should be in his lounging pajamas that he's often seen.
Orange is the new black, though. It could be a jumpsuit.
Exactly. There we go. Yes.
Oh, and before we get off of that, I love his coat. That Patrick-y kind of coat. I had a dress that looked like that when I was younger. And I really dig that design.
Yeah, it was. So we've got G'Kar in the cell, Veer heading back to Minbari, and Bester saying we'll have to worry about Babylon 5 on our next trip. I think the only thing we haven't talked about is Susan. I think slightly out of character, I'm just going to betray orders and blow this ship out of the sky. Lou, you specifically brought that up. So before we get out of here, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, I understand the purpose of the scene, that they wanted to show how scared she was, but that scene just didn't sit well with me. I just don't believe she would do something that rash, and because she's such a control freak character. So for her to take something like that on her own, and I'm sure listeners are going to come in with why they believe she would do that, and I'd be more than glad to hear those comments, because right now I rack my brain trying to come up with something plausible for that character. Like I know she's had trauma with Psychor, with her mother, and blah blah blah, and with Talia maybe too, because we never really knew the extent of the relationship, though there was hints there. But for her to act in such a way, I just didn't buy it. And the fact that none of the crew questioned her orders about doing some sort of diagnostics.
Go get some tea.
Seriously, this is not off-hour shift either, or I don't even know if they have an off-hour shift there, because it's not a 24-hour cycle.
Yes.
So how busy the traffic is with the station, like everybody's going to see, all these other ships are going to see this, and it's just that's just not the way. That's not her character. She wouldn't give up that easily. So it just didn't. Yeah, it was just a weird scene. Sometimes they just do weird things on the show, and this was one of those moments where I go, I'm not buying this at all. But I'm probably wrong, and somebody will have a good explanation. But that's just how it struck me.
I agree with you 100%. I did not like that scene at all. We've seen that she's not 100% by the book, but she would never do this. Never. I don't care what happened to her in her past. She might joke around about, hey, let's hurt him a little bit. Can we just hurt him a little bit? Okay, I get that, but it just didn't seem right to me. It really kind of put me off on that part of the show, of this episode. And it's a good thing Sheridan was walking by, right? Or otherwise it would have ended in disaster. I think that would have caused such a horrible uproar if she had actually done that. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a dumb move.
Yeah, I did not care for it either. And I'm sure that people will say, let me give you this as an example of how this is in character. I didn't buy it. And I think it was just specifically to give her and Sheridan a moment. But I just don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel for me. And so I'm right there with you. I just think that if I was rewriting, there seems like there should have been another way to get this point across.
I feel like I can think of 10 different ways they could have done it if they just wanted
right
them
off the bat said she would ask for vacation or something. I just want to leave the station.
Or even just going to John and saying, I don't know if we can get by with this.
Yeah.
For them to have a little moment. And that's it.
I can't be here.
Yeah. And she offered she was going to resign her commission instead of
subject to the scan.
Something to. So it just seems like that would have been anyway. Yeah, I think we're over
1,000,000%.
JMS, what were you thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
There was one other part of the episode at the very beginning when the shop
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes.
Oh, yes. That was a good beat.
Yeah.
Very relevant for today's situation.
Definitely. And I like that it wasn't Zach, that it was just some random dude that we don't have to being a part in the, I guess, what would be like the SS Army trying to impose the quote unquote law that isn't a law, and Sheridan coming down on him. So I like that Sheridan has actually put his foot down on this whole Earth Force thing. And I thought that was a nice little, and it's almost like a throwaway scene. They get it right out of the way and then they don't come back to it again. But you don't need to come back to it again. It's like they're dropping little hints of things that are coming up in the episodes. Okay, this means something, but we're not going to take up the whole episode with it. So I thought it was a good scene.
Anything to add, Lou?
No, I'm just glad that Karen remembered to mention it, because it was an interesting, very interesting parallels to today. And it's all about social media and blah, 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 and your bubble of existence and so forth. So it was a good scene to see and very relevant to today's world.
Eerily relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very on point to have a Jewish shopkeeper. They even threw in a couple of references to Nazi Germany and there when he talked, don't you have a blank meeting ticket? I don't remember the word now, but it was, I thought sometimes you need a sledgehammer. You need to not necessarily be subtle. And I like that a lot. All right. Anything else we need to visit about this one?
I did the last scene with Bester when he was talking to the other psycho and saying that he was against this whole trying to create these new telepaths with this drug.
Yeah.
Whether that's because he doesn't like messing around with other people, or he just wants to keep the Psychor to natural telepaths as opposed to fake ones. I don't know. It's a bit of both, but I thought it was a nice, again, that sort of smarmy or superior smug attitude is encapsulated in that last scene as well.
Yeah, I agree. Very nice. Our ratings, Lou.
I'm going to give this 8 solitary confinements.
All right. Karen?
I'll give it also 8 patchwork coats.
Nice. Yeah, I did. Every time I see the back of that, I think of Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors. Yeah. Yes. I am in sync. I give this 8 out of 10 Mumbari Hawaiian print shirts, which I want desperately now.
Yeah.
So
we'd have to find out what their plants look like in order.
Yeah, exactly. I love this one so much, and I think this does. There is a lot toward the arc that we're getting to this that we will see.
Jakar and the many-colored coat. Interesting.
There you go.
Okay.
Lots of biblical references.
It is. Yes. Yeah. All right.
And stupid Kosh.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Karen, we got a couple of emails, did we not?
Did. Let me read the one from Texas on the Shock first.
Cool.
They write, remember when I described All Alone in the Night as a pretty box? This is the episode where JMS coins the term. This episode came about to give Bester a win. The 2 previous times he showed up, he was either outright beaten or outwitted. If that continued, JMS ran the risk of him becoming an ineffectual threat, as many villains do when the good guys just beat whatever their current plot is again and again. I want to, Karen here wants to interject. That I get the feeling that this is like the Borg, where the Borg won quite a few times, and it looked like they were never going to beat him. And that's what made that victory all the better. And I like where they're headed with that. And with the Psi Corps. The Psi Corps seem really strong. And so anyway, sorry about that.
I think that's a good point.
Some more recent shows are more conscious of this and take steps to avoid it. Leverage, for example, with regards to recurring antagonist Jim Sterling, had as a rule in the writer's room, Sterling never loses. Whenever he shows up, the team either has to stalemate him or arrange some kind of mutual victory. And that's when he doesn't outright beat them. This episode goes for a mutual victory. The station gets their dust problem dealt with, and Bester gets the Corps' secret project back under their control. Now to the real meat of the episode. G'Kar arranges to acquire some dust, hoping to use it as a weapon against the Centauri. During his experiment, he decides to go and find out exactly what Londo knows. I think this shows a great deal of fortitude on his part. The guy we see at the beginning completely lost control, but G'Kar manages to keep himself together, barely, long enough to get to his objective. Once inside Londo's mind, he sees it all, Londo's dealings with Mr. Morden and how it enabled the Centauri to defeat the Darn. He also sees how Londo got the job, that he was the only one who was deemed suitable to take a position that seemed important on paper, but in reality was a joke to the Centauri. It also shed some light on Veer's position as well. When Centauri Prime was trying to replace him, he lamented that the only reason he was there in the first place was because no one wanted him at home. The position was a joke. Londo was a joke. So who would they send to the aid? To be the aid to a joke, except one who was less than a joke, practically a non-person. Now, of course, both their positions have risen considerably, and Veer might actually start becoming a political force in his own right. I think Lou would appreciate that. And we find that Veer still believes in Londo. He's trying to help him out, talking him up, telling Delenn and Lanier and the audience that he'll surprise you yet. Do you believe him? Okay, Karen's answer, no. I'm sure Lou's answer is also no. Yeah. Going back to G'Kar, he finds himself face to face with his father in his final moments, and then a prophetic figure that I believe to be Jaquan. Some insist that's also supposed to be his father, but I don't think so. G'Kar does not act like he's talking to his father. It's the same actor, the ombudsman from season 1, but I think that's just a matter of convenience. I do think they're supposed to be different characters. Yeah, and IMDb, it actually says he's Jaquan. So I think that's a given at this point. So G'Kar has what he believes to be a divine revelation, not noticing Kosh slipping away behind him. The question now, is he willing to put this axe down? He still has to free his world, but after that, will he be willing to let it go to avoid winding up right back here again? And can he convince his people to do the same? Sorry about that. Oh, and I almost forgot the initial confrontation between the Night Watch officer and the shopkeeper. And to drive the point even further, he's apparently Jewish. Anyway, season 3 is cruising right along, not quite serialization as we think of it, but each episode is clearly moving certain pieces along. Until next time, have fun dealing with madmen who read too much. Okay, that might be me. Sorry. This is the Texas Endless Talk signing off, and Valen's name.
Thank you, as always, Texas. We appreciate that. Great feedback. Any thoughts, Lou?
No, that's all pretty straightforward.
All right, good deal. All right. And Karen, we also heard, yes.
Yep, now from David. Dust to Dust is a good, not necessarily great standalone episode, or is it? We've heard dust mentioned in passing a time or two before. Now we know what it actually does. Some folks think it's bizarre that G'Kar would resort to trying that as a weapon. Personally, I understand it, not only from the standpoint of finding out Centauri plans, but also something along the lines of implanting a thought into a low-level Centauri troop that shooting up his comrades is a good idea before he shoots himself. Plus, at the time this was written, there was stories about all sorts of experiments done by the CIA involving telepathy, illegal drugs, etc., so not so bizarre. Bester, is he lying or telling the truth about Talia? My money on he's telling the truth. Maybe we'll see. We get to see Londo get a bit of justly deserved comeuppance. Poor Veer, though. Several people are confused about Jakar's vision, understandable since two of characters are played by the same actor. My take, first, this is his father as he was hung from the tree. Second was Jaquan, this personal belief, with the third being the same vision he'd already have of Jalan. Main reason I think that is how he reacts with the second character. Personally, thought the trial scene to be a bit off, unless you consider it to be an incident that everyone feels is best swept under the rug. In my opinion, 60 Days was pretty light. No doubt having Sheridan and Garibaldi helped him there. Bester's line about the Psychor developing dust was the chef's kiss. IMO. I agree. Yeah, and I do think that people seem to be wondering in those Texas and David whether that's Jaquan or not. I was cut and dry to me that it was Jaquan. That's just me, and the fact that it's in IMDb that he was Jaquan. But
yeah, it felt that way to me too when I watched it originally. Yeah, good. All right. I know there's always a healthy debate on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. Anything that stands out that you feel that should be brought up?
Yeah, there's two main items. The first one is about the first ones, and apparently a lot of people are saying in that thread that just because they're old doesn't mean they're mature, which I guess is possible, but in my journeys into science fiction, old ones usually are more mature, because if they weren't, they would have killed themselves off in one way or another. So I'm still standing by my point about them being jealous of Kosh. It's just silly. But I think I'm also going to have to get used to that happening more in the future as well. And the other one was about Susan's ability to pick up the subplot about the assassination of the president while she was in the machine. And I've seen a lot of speculation being put into the thread as to why she was able to do that or why it happened. And this is a thing that I see happens in fandom a lot. And maybe this has been established in the show or will be established in the show as to why she was able to do this. But if it's not explicitly stated in the show or shown on the show, then it's speculation to my point of view. So therefore, there's nothing in the show that I've seen supports why she was able to pick up that subplot president assassination storyline, unless there was an external force like Kosh, maybe. I see this happen a lot in fandom when there's something that doesn't land properly, that then all this speculation, well, it's because of this and this. And I said, that's great, but that wasn't in the show. And one of the points is that Susan's thinking about this the president's assassination all the time. I don't remember that. If any character that was thinking about it the most, it was Garibaldi. But maybe I'm just selectively remembering that. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that. But yeah, so those were the two main discussion points from Voices of Authority.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why TV shows work is you leave that vagueness, and then as viewers, we can fill in our own blanks. And I think one of the things that we have to be careful about as fandom is to, just because we feel very strongly that this is the right answer or the right storyline, doesn't necessarily, unless the show specifically, and I will talk about, I don't know, not to spoil, but David Lindelof, when he released the HBO Watchmen series, they thought the ending was perfect, and they thought it was very clear what they were saying in the ending. And there are people still debating, no, you should have given us an actual answer of what happens. And I've left it vague in case anyone hasn't watched that wonderful miniseries.
I haven't. That's a good candidate for one of our JK.
Yes.
Just realized that because I haven't watched that, and I've always been meaning to.
Okay, book it. Yes. Have you seen it, Karen?
The first episode. and nothing
Oh,
after that.
okay. Yes. Oh, yeah.
And
That's
I'm
my
such a
pick.
comic book geek.
Yeah. Okay. That's our choice. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna go
After
that.
12
Absolutely.
Monkeys, then?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. All right. Good. All right. If you want to leave us a email, you can send us an email at jklb5podcast@gmail.com about what we said in the past, what episodes we've got coming up, general thoughts, complimenting that I did not give a Springsteen reference in this episode. I
Ooh,
would
except for
appreciate a little
now.
love, except for now. Yeah. Karen, if someone wants to reach you, how can they?
I am at Oliveria on various social media platforms, and my blog is aliesstuff.com.
And Lou?
You can, of course, find our Babylon 5 podcasts on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, along with our JKL Media podcast when we're currently doing 12 Monkeys. And next, we're going to be doing Watchmen. And I also have some writer interviews up there, as well as Stephen King podcasts. And you can find me at Twitter at Lou W. Sitzma.
Super. And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talk Bruce on Set Lusting Bruce, John Hyatt on Perfectly Good Podcast, and Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere. So be back next week. We will be back next week talking more Babylon 5. For now, everyone, be kind, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. And scene.